Materials are at the heart of almost every challenge we can think of in society, whether that's at a national or an international level. So we depend on them in our daily lives, and we really depend on their discovery, their innovation, how we use them in design and how we apply them. Examples, I can think of many examples. We can just think about net zero, perhaps better to describe that as zero pollution, actually. We can think around healthy nation, resilient nation, national security, paucity of resources, that they're all, at the heart of why materials is so important. And if you step back for a moment and just consider their impact, there's a sort of invisible ether. They're the bedrock on which the UK economy is established. You can't manufacture without materials. You can't make things without materials. And I think probably now more than ever, our drive for a more sustainable use of resources is dependent on having the right materials at our disposal, and thinking about how we unmake those as much as how we make them. There's a lot of things we could mention here. I think it's probably worth starting by saying that the innovation, the UK innovation strategy that came out last year, it's really important that it's positioned advanced materials and manufacturing as one of the key technologies. So that, for me, was very important because it recognised the importance of materials. I guess the hottest topic at the moment is probably sustainable use of materials. And that's actually a pretty pervasive topic because it applies to all our materials development going forward. Whatever we design now, we have to think about end of life. I guess other areas that I would focus on are topics like materials for quantum. So these are the materials that actually enable quantum as well. So we might talk about superconductors, for instance, in that regard. But really, materials and quantum is going to be the paradigm of a whole new computing sort of applications. There's lots of exciting possibilities there. There's green energy production, its use and its storage. That's incredibly diverse. There's established technologies which need to be improved, photovoltaics, but then there's a whole host of other materials, calorics, low loss electronics, next generation batteries. They've all got materials at their core, and there's just loads of exciting stuff that's happening there. And of course, we need to extend that to think about things like hydrogen and nuclear, because they're all really dependent on materials. And many of the materials that we're talking about are being used are extremely scarce in that regard. There's also other topics to consider, things like the biomedical materials and personalized health, that ranging from systems which are biocompatible to those which are actually incorporating functionality and interfacing and communicating with the body. There's lots of new opportunities around the bioelectronics, for instance, as a topic, and materials are fundamental to that. I think finally, perhaps a bit of a different steer, a real game changer is going to be successful application of materials informatics, and something that we hear a lot in the news at the moment, but artificial intelligence, and applying that to advanced material discovery. And that's going to provide the potential to rapidly accelerate innovation, I think, and really push forward a new range of materials much more quickly than we've seen historically. Historically, it takes 20 years to bring a material to commercialization. I'm hoping that AI and the digital revolution is going to change that dramatically. That's an interesting question. I think advanced materials research is a real UK strength. I think where we're weak and we need to do more is very much in the area of commercialization. So Royce has been working on this. It really is putting more emphasis on closing the gap to ensure the UK is really a front runner in embedding advanced materials into our manufacturing, our energy sectors, our health sectors. Examples of this are we're starting to support sprint projects in parallel with fundamental research, and they're all about taking sort of ideas, nascent ideas, and really trying to move them forward so they're going to be translated and be adopted by industry. I guess we also need to acknowledge it's not just about accelerating in the science, it's also about getting the right investment climate. Essentially that's access to money. It's about getting the human capital that's quite agile and can move around projects. It's recognizing that materials doesn't operate in isolation. There's a whole supply chain, and we've got to connect up that supply chain. These are all areas that we're aware of. Royce is doing some activities in that. There's a lot more to do. I always come at things from a slightly different way. I've got quite a strong engineering background, and I often say that, it's often said that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think one of the things that we need to focus on is more top-down views. I think part of the problem that we've got in the UK is we haven't yet got a national strategy around materials and advanced materials. And if we get that right, that will really enable the pull. So it will really start to identify what are the key areas that we should be doing materials research in that we know will have an impact. That'll have an impact on society in the short to medium term. And for me, tackling that and understanding how we can get similarities where we've got materials working in different sectors that haven't traditionally collaborated, they can pull resource and pull capabilities to everyone's benefit. And again, they will move back up the chain to address those challenges. I think that's something that we've really got to take on board in the coming 1 to 2 years. Key in all that is ensuring the right environment, which stimulates innovation in the correct areas, and how that translates. So innovation comes from great minds, fantastic skills, but it also comes from encouraging a diverse, multidisciplinary UK workforce that is highly competent. So skills are something that's really important, and driving that diversity of skills. And also we need the right regulatory environment that really supports innovation. So there's really something there that government can help with, helping to evolve that to work in some of the new exciting areas like hydrogen, for instance, where a sort of an innovative regulatory environment could really help the UK really steal a lead really in those sorts of significant markets. There'll be a lot of things that we'll be showcasing, but primarily it'll be our technology platforms. So this is the grouping of our facilities together with the people. Obviously, it's not just about equipment, it's about equipment and people that deliver capability. And those cover a whole range of aspects of materials, incredibly diverse, but generally they cover the making of materials, they cover the testing of materials, so that might be in demanding environments, or it might be, just look at electrical testing or performance testing, but often in situ and in monitoring in situ, and also characterizing those materials. As I've said, it's a huge range that Royce has got in his portfolio, and that goes from quantum materials right through to another extreme might be something like, for instance, metal forging or rolling. So I think it will appeal to a really diverse group of people as they're coming along. A key aspect of Royce is that all these facilities are national, they're national capabilities, they're open access. So a big part of what we need to do is highlight that they're there and the routes at which people can come and access and use them and tap into these major investments that the UK government has made on their behalf. There's lots of stuff I'm looking forward to the show. It's about, for me, it's about exploring some of the great innovative research that's taking place and just hearing about that. I'd just like to hear about things that maybe I haven't come across before, rather than listen to the stuff that I know about and see more regularly. There's always things that come from meeting new researchers and organisations, and I'm hoping there'll be a real diverse group there, some that are really sort of close to spinning their stuff out and using it and applying it, and others have just got nascent ideas that they don't really know how they're necessarily going to be applied yet. It's always interesting talking to those. I guess for me also it's really important to start to hear about the challenges which the organisations are facing, what are blockers, what are barriers they're seeing, so that I can sort of take that back with the role I've got within Royce to sort of think, well, is there something that Royce can do, or is there something that we can help in discussions with government or other funding bodies or other organisations, which just may just sort of release, if you like, that choke, and help those organisations as seeing that as something that's really holding them back from translating that technology into something impactful. Clearly the current materials challenges are huge and incredibly exciting, and events like this really provide an opportunity to showcase the materials and bring the community together. So ultimately, for me, it's getting a real feel for what the community's doing and where the community's heading. And all the excitement that goes along with that.